Okay, we're back at it with some more news. Only this time it's a Thursday. And we're talking about the new update 1.3 coming for Total War Warhammer 3 on June 30th. And what this is going to include is another round of Regiments of Renown, as well as some inclusions of some fixes for the Realm of Chaos, namely, of course, the Realm of TZEENTCH, and some of the interactions with the Changer of Ways. Miao Ying is going to be getting access to a new spell in her dragon form. And then there's going to be a couple of other tweaks in this patch as well. Namely, of course, kind of around Cathay and the formation attack and whatnot. That's going to be getting a melee defense buff and some other goodies there. That's just kind of the essential breakdown of this patch and what's going to be coming. Again, it lands June 30th. That puts us a full month away from the Immortal Empires beta or whatever, like August. We don't know what time in August, right? So it's going to be... We'll have July to kind of play 1.3, and then we'll hopefully be jumping into that Immortal Empires sometime in August time. Maybe even September, depending if it gets pushed back, whatever it is. So we're going to go through this developer note here, this developer diary, and talk about 1.3, but that's the kind of gist of what is going to be included in this patch. If that's all you wanted to know, feel free to head out. But before you do, please don't forget to comment, like, and or subscribe. I know it's exhausting to hear that from every single content creator, but it truly does help us out a ton. So go ahead and do that if you are heading out. But for those that want to stick around, let's get into the nitty and the gritty of the 1.3 patch for Total War Warhammer 3. And this is a pretty good one. It's a smaller patch compared to 1.1 and 1.2. They even said it right here. But it's got some pretty good stuff locked into it. So we get 7 new Regiments of Renown that are joining the roster in our second official unit pack. Like the first, units will be joining each of the game's core races to provide new elite variants of any army you field. And I guess we'll be, we don't know what that is yet. They said you're welcome. We welcome your guesses as to what units you'd like to see in the coming release. So that is a fun little bit of info. So we'll be getting that second Regiment of Renown pack with 1.3. Also, some character traits and skill trees will be reworked, namely, of course, the traits received upon defeating legendary lords. They'll be a little bit more rewarding, a little bit more impactful. One that kind of comes to mind for me is the TZEENTCH one for killing Kairos. I'd love to see that kind of reworked, as it really doesn't really have a whole ton of value to me. And some of the other ones out there just kind of getting reworked. But also several skill trees will also be seeing updates. They should not only improve the efficacy of your lords and legendary lords, but will help factions who have historically struggled with replenishing their armies. So that should be a number of increases to unit replenishment. Stuff like Slaanesh and TZEENTCH that typically kind of suffers from that should hopefully get some good boosts in that department. With the Realm of Chaos, we're going to be seeing some stuff here, namely with the Forge of Souls. So now the AI teleports. When an AI teleports to the Forge of Souls, players will now be prompted to teleport and confront them if they're in a position to do so. This should counteract the need to proactively camp the Forge of Souls until the AI appears, which I really like. You can actually kind of go about your business, and unless you've downloaded the mod that just shuts off the Realm of Souls, and only deal with the AI reactively, which I like a lot more. Also, the final encounter with Be'lakor has been adjusted to be less time-consuming and less punishing. Several tweaks here for TZEENTCH's realm. Sigils will now be revealed when the player enters and exits a teleport locus, which I love because I sometimes forget it, or maybe you stop in the middle of going into the TZEENTCH's realm because you got to go do something and come back 2 hours later and you're like, oh shit, which one did I go to? This will now be revealed. Also, action points used to move and position your armies will no longer be lost by interacting with a point of interest, which is massive because you might be right next to one, interact with that point of interest to replenish your army, and then lose all your action points. So that is no longer the case. And the AI must now teleport 8 times before accessing the final area, giving you a far more of a leeway and far more of a better chance to actually beat them to getting to the final area for TZEENTCH. Now, speaking of TZEENTCH, when the AI wants to use the changing of the ways, minor factions can no longer do it, and the cooldown is being increased to prevent it from being abused by the AI factions. So we should see less changing of the ways from the AI and more from the player itself. Cathayan formation attack has been improved here, so both by adding additional melee defense and by updating the entity behavior so that soldiers will more actively seek out engagements. I really want to see and test how this feels, because right now Cathayan's formation attack is just rubbish. So I'm really excited to see this actually having a positive impact on the game, hopefully. Kurgan spawn rates. Several changes are being made to prevent Kurgan warband armies from spawning continuously, offering vigilant Cathay players a chance to enjoy some well-earned moments of peace, which is lovely. I just choked on my own spit. But Miao Ying now has Eye of the Storm. This is the ability that increases your melee attack by 24 and your base and AP weapon damage by 50%. You now get access to this as a dragon, which is amazing. So you're going to be able to do way more damage as a dragon for Miao Ying, which I think is a really, really, really good benefit because Zhao Ming's Fire Breath attack is just so damn good. So now you have a nice kind of complementing strong buff here for Miao Ying to have her just do so much damage or so much more additional damage in dragon form. Unit responsiveness has also been tweaked here from how units navigate settlement entrances and react to retreat orders, as well as how large units and heroes interact via synced animations. So very excited to see that. The AI focus on the backline has been reduced because previously they would just exclusively focus on the backline to the point that they would just kind of suicide pass things or just completely ignore the front line. It kind of made things very cumbersome. And that has been tweaked here in 1.3. AI using abilities when they should not has also been tweaked. So hopefully now there are a handful of instances where the AI would utilize abilities where the player could not. That is not intended. So we're ensuring that abilities are limited in the same way as they are for the player. So I think that's a great little improvement there. Plague attrition. Plagues have been noted as exceptionally difficult to deal with, so we're making some adjustments to the duration and strength of attrition effects. And what I like here is a lot of the kind of passive things that have become bothersome with Total War Warhammer 3, like corruption, its spread, the individual rifts and how they can just make life so miserable for you if you don't shut them down immediately. Plagues, if you are near any kind of Nurgle faction, how it can just like completely unhinge your gameplay. I like how they've been addressed in this patch and in the first two patches with making it easier to shut down corruption, making it easier to get rid of any kind of negative mark or negative trait from the Realm of Chaos, and now with Plague Attrition. I think those are three really solid positive steps, whereas in the past they were just a lot of unnecessary maintenance you kind of had to do that would sometimes bog you down and you couldn't just go on to do stuff in the campaign. It was just superfluous. Land and domination battles are now in ranked. So matchmaking will now allow for both land and domination battles in ranked, more variety to test your skills, which is very fun and very exciting for any multiplayer people. You can now have both in your ranked matchmaking. So for some things that have moved, well, one thing that has moved out of the 1.3 release window, while there is plenty more fixes and features coming in 1.3, all of which will be captured in release notes, there's one project noted previously which has been bumped from the release. As with any project, we will continue to work on developing, testing, and implementing it as soon and safely as possible. So this is the feature that has been removed from 1.3. We'll probably see it when the beta of Immortal Empires launches, but increasing the frequency of field battles in the campaign. We still want to ensure that there is a healthy mix of land, siege, and minor settlement battles as you play through the campaign, particularly based on player feedback about the number of siege and settlement battles. This will be fixed in a future update, and we'll let you know when we have an updated timeline as to when it will be ready. Again, hoping that is primed for Immortal Empires, because we've already seen the increase to settlements and provinces for Immortal Empires, right? The amount that's coming out. And if all of it has to be settlement and siege battles, that's going to be rough. So I do really hope that this is something that lands in line with, I don't even know if the beta would be 1.4 or not, but I know in the roadmap, I think it said like 1.4 was later in the year. So I'm hoping that this gets rolled out with that, with the Immortal Empires beta, because otherwise, like I just said, those settlement battles are going to be a slog. There's just so damn many on the map now. We've seen that some provinces are really, really dense, so we're going to be dealing with a lot of settlements within those provinces, and some are a little bit wider. So I'd love to see that kind of shake its way out. And I wonder, though, if this kind of just applies to the way the code works for Warhammer 3, or if it just is a subject of the regions in Warhammer 3. In Cathay, in the Northern Chaos Wastes, in the kind of the portion of Norska and in the Darklands. I wonder if it's just a symptom of ththose areas, or if it's just, hey, this is just the way the code is right now. So we'll see how that kind of plays itself out when we jump on 1.3 and 1. Whatever with the beta, whatever it is. But coming June 30th, finally it's time to address the big question: when can you expect 1.3? We promised that it would be kicking off Q3, and we are going to do just that, releasing it next Thursday, June 30th, to usher in the new quarter. Don't worry, we still have plenty of news about Immortal Empires, even as we prepare and release 1.3. We hope you enjoy these latest additions to Total Warhammer 3 as you wait, and we'll see you next week as we share more information about both Immortal Empires and Update 1.3. So, a lot of fun and exciting things that are happening here in Total War Warhammer 3. Again, I think Immortal Empires is going to be that big resurgence of the game. Most people have played through the Chaos Realms campaign to death at this point, and they just are hungering for that Immortal Empires approach. I know I personally am. And as I've learned from my previous video, there should not be more sea lanes than the sea lanes that exist. I agree. You guys have changed my mind. I'm sorry. So, very excited to get more information here at 1.3. Excited to find out what those regiments of renown are looking like, and also super excited to find out about those starting positions for the legendary lords in Immortal Empires. Now, I don't know if those starting positions, the blog is going to be every single legendary lord. They did say that they're going to be talking about the legendary lords in the next week or two, or whatever it said on the previous blog post. They said I think they said it's next. It's the next Immortal Empires blog post is about the starting positions. But I'm curious to see if they're going to be moving a lot of characters around, and how that's going to shake itself out now across the 84 some odd legendary lords it said, or whatever exorbitant number it was. So either way, super stoked. Go ahead and let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Are you stoked on 1.3? Are you going to pass on 1.3 and just wait for Immortal Empires? Is this the thing that you kind of wanted to finally do a Cathayan playthrough? What are your thoughts, Tower? What are you feeling? What are you vibing with, my dudes, when it comes to 1.3 for Total War Warhammer 3? But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.